Let's stop pretending. The cultural divide in 2026 has a clear winner and a clear loser. And spoiler alert, mainstream conservatism is losing. Now, is this because progressivism is the superior ideology? Definitely not. Conservatism doesn't really stand for anything substantive, at least not for anybody under the age of 40. For decades, the message from corporate conservative figures has been this: leave me alone, let me drink my beer, watch my game, say my prayers, but only privately, and only if politics is kept out of it, which is a whole lot less of a civilizational vision and more of a retirement plan for folks who would describe Fox News as conservative. Now, I actually can't think of a clearer example than comparing the two Super Bowl halftime shows this past weekend. On one hand, you have the official NFL production that was forward-thinking and had top-tier production value, and generally was interesting to watch. And then, on the other hand, you have the TPUSA alternative show, which was not only pre-taped, but it felt like a movement that had already lost. And young people can sniff this out from miles away. So, as a piece of unsolicited advice, if the most viral moment from your event is kissing a fish, you're not winning. Now, how did we get here? Our current brand of conservatism, particularly within the Southern American good old boy demographic, has dissolved almost entirely into the Bud Light of traditional conservative ideals. Instead of saying, here's what's true, here's what's good, and here's why, the overarching sentiment is, can you please stop bothering us? And then it wonders for some reason why it can't compete with a cultural movement, however morally bankrupt it might be, that at the very least speaks of total transformation. You have one side promoting a cultural revolution, and the other promising slightly cheaper gas, more money in your retirement account, assuming that the currency is actually worth something by the time you retire, and the right to be left alone while your civilization is sold off to global corporations. And for you young people who can't afford to buy a home or pay your student loan debt, maybe if you didn't splurge so much, you'd be able to do it too. Now look, it's obvious that leftism is a completely illogical ideology. So the issue isn't that people who are rubbing at least two of their brain cells together are going to suddenly start aligning themselves with the DSA just because we have the nerve to criticize this corporate brand of conservatism. But just look at the messaging aimed at young Americans from these institutions. It's either self-deprecating redneck cosplay or a weird sanitized patriotism that's more focused on the good old days rather than what could be. In fact, I've been arguing for a long time that it's the logical extension of what the country music industry has been pumping out for the last decade. And all of this might resonate with people who just want to check out, but it doesn't inspire anyone who actually wants to live in a dignified country. You can't build a serious cultural alternative while proudly presenting yourself as unserious. If your identity is built around nostalgia and embracing the lowest common denominators of the human existence, then you've already disqualified yourself from shaping the future. Now, if conservatism in America wants to survive, three things must happen. First, Christ must be placed back at the center of the movement, not as a slogan or a campaign prop, and definitely not another filler line in another song about binge drinking with some pretty little thing who wears Daisy Dukes at your local dive bar. Without Christ, conservatism effectively becomes another form of lifestyle management. Second, we need to stop glorifying mediocrity. We need to demand intellectual seriousness, the type that built Western civilization in the first place. If you can't explain why your principles are true beyond "that's how I was raised" or "that's just how I feel," then you don't have principles. You just have subjective preferences. In the same way, we shouldn't expect the general public to take someone seriously just because they have multiple diplomas and they've tried every SSRI on the market. Most people aren't going to be attracted to figures whose identity is centered around things like cold beer and sports and bland references to Jesus. Third, we need to recognize the urgency of this situation. Essentially, stop communicating like your highest aspiration is survival. There has to be more urgency. The great biblical heroes are celebrated specifically for going out as a light into the world. not pontificating under a proverbial bushel basket. The time for sitting on the sidelines and whining about some obvious double standard is over. We have to offer a vision of ordered liberty, moral clarity, and national renewal that actually competes with the grand narratives that progressivism promises. Young people aren't drawn to weakness. They want confidence and coherence. And without both, there is no chance to combat the degradation of our societal fabric. The reality is that right now, the largest conservative institutions in America are completely out of touch with the reality that young Americans are living in. So here's the question. Are we going to keep consuming a version of conservatism that flatters our laziness? Or are we willing to demand something more of ourselves? Because no one is going to join a movement whose highest goal is to simply be left alone. So as always, I can't wait to see what y'all have to say. So drop a comment below, and I will see you in the next one. Till then, peace be with you.